Good evening, everyone. How are things? So, there's more to the Julian Assange situation, and I'm going to go over them. Um, isn't it funny that you're getting your news from a guy who doesn't get paid, who's in his basement, and is wearing a v-neck? What are the people doing who are making millions of dollars reporting from buildings, I don't know, couple stories up with nice suits that are probably worth more than this basement? Alright, well, news from the basement. So where do I begin? Well, let's begin with Gateway Pundit by Cassandra Fairbanks. This was earlier today, leaked. Here are the demands Ecuador has given Julian Assange in order to end his isolation. As of yet, as far as I'm aware... Oh, shoot. That's the image. Work solo. There we go. Psh, sorry. Julian Assange has not gotten back his communications yet within the embassy. So here I'm just going to read it and we'll go to the other stuff. Despite numerous reports claiming that the communications of Julian Assange have been restored, they are not yet, and there will be a severe regime of penalties and sanctions on his speech and writing when they are. The team at WikiLeaks was informed on Friday that his communications would be restored on Monday, October 15, but so far there has not been any change. In a grave violation of free speech, Assange was also presented with a 9-page document that includes outlining limitations and restrictions on what he will be able to do and say online. The new rules also promise to potentially use the UK police against visitors or to seize communications equipment. The protocols Assange will be forced to agree to in order to end his isolation have been leaked online in Spanish. And if you're watching from YouTube and Facebook and Vimm.tv, all the links are in the description box. It's in Spanish, but luckily, because of Susie Dawson and a bunch of other people who set up Unity4J, hashtag Unity4J. If you go to Ecuador-events, I'm sorry if I don't say it right, ladrillero, I believe. He translated it in from from Spanish to English, I'm sorry. So you can always go to the Unity4J Discord site and you can find it in Ecuador-events, but the direct link, you should be able to get there in the description box below. In addition to this, if you go to news, either recent or urgent, I'm going to urgent. Of course, Ladrillero also mentions that Assange has not been connected because they are waiting for tomorrow's vote at the National Assembly, and Susie's just asking for the source. No reply yet, nothing new there, but of course, if you want to stay on top of things yourself and not have to wait on a v-necked wearing basement dweller, you can go get it for yourself. Okay, so continuing on with Cassandra's article, the draconian document demands that he avoids any activities that could be political or would interfere in interior matters of other states, essentially squashing his freedom of speech and his ability to publish. It also provides new rules for visitors. The document begins by outlining the new rules for visitors. It says that any person outside the embassy or the Ecuadorian government, without exception, that wishes to visit Assange will need to request prior authorization in writing addressed to the chief of the Embassy of Ecuador. They will need to include their full names, nationality, copies of identification, reason for the visit, their profession or workplace, email accounts, and links to their social media, and serial numbers for any phones or tablets they wish to keep with them during the visit. Wow. Additionally, the IMEI of visitors' cell phones chips is also required for the intelligence collection operation. This must be sent through email, a return email obtained, and that must be printed and brought to the appointment. For frequent visitors, Ecuador is willing to make exceptions and give them a letter of identification, which they will only have to renew every 3 months. Should the embassy refuse to allow someone access, they will not be providing a reason why. It says that they reserve the right to decline or cancel any authorization at any time, even for those who have been previously authorized as a frequent visitor. When this reporter visited Assange in the days prior to his isolation, all details were worked out with staff working for Assange. The embassy simply checked my passport and held my phone at the front desk. The new protocol also asserts that the embassy will be keeping a record of all visits made to Assange and the data that they provide. This information will be sent to the Ecuadorian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other unnamed agencies. Assange will also only be allowed to have up to 3 visitors at once, unless cleared by the head of the embassy. Ecuador also wrote that people who violate the rules of their visits or display a lack of appropriate behavior during the visit will be reported to British authorities. Communications. The section regarding Assange's communication begins by saying that when his internet is restored, he will be liable for any costs for Wi-Fi. Oh gosh. It says that he may only use his own tablets, phones, or computers except in exceptional cases and only with written permission from Ecuador. Assange must also provide the brand name, model number, and serial number for any devices he has in the embassy. While the document asserts that Ecuador shall not be liable for the contents of his communications, statements, documents, or messages on social media, it goes on to place severe limits on his freedom of speech. It says that Assange, while exercising his right of communication and of freedom of expression, is prohibited from activities that could be considered political or interfering in the affairs of other nations or that may damage the relationship between Ecuador and other states. Ecuador says that disobeying this rule can lead to termination of asylum or placing him back into isolation. Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno has previously stated that speech restrictions include opinions critical of U.S. or Spanish policy, such as criticism of Spanish police brutalizing peaceful voters. Medical. The document says that Assange must submit to the quarterly evaluations with medical specialists at his own expense. The result of any examinations will be kept private. In case of a medical emergency or at the express request of Mr. Assange, the head of the mission will authorize your transfer as soon as possible to receive care from physicians outside the embassy, the document says. The UK has repeatedly denied Assange safe passage to a hospital after doctors who examined him called for him to be allowed to go and be treated for his deteriorating health. If he was to be transported to a hospital, it is extremely likely he would be arrested. Additionally, Ecuador is threatening to kidnap Assange's embassy cat and bring him to an animal shelter if they deem it not being properly cleaned up after. On March 28th, Ecuador caved to pressure from the United States and Spanish governments to isolate Assange by revoking his right to have visitors, make phone calls, or use the internet. The WikiLeaks founder entered the Ecuadorian embassy in London on June 19, 2012. He was soon granted political asylum. The UK has refused to acknowledge the findings of the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, which found that Assange is being arbitrarily and unlawfully detained and must be immediately released and compensated. And the rest are comments, and you can read those comments at the site. What I am gonna show you are the downloads of the Assange protocol translation, and you can read them all here. If you go to the link, if you go to Discord, you can download it, so you can see pretty much the Spanish to English translation. Remember it's, so this is the first part. Oh, there's also other things like in view and space of the security reasons, we'll only be able to enter the embassy to visit Mr. Assange up to 3 people at once. So there's a lot of restrictions. And you can go and see all of them translated courtesy of ladrillero, hopefully. I wish I could figure out how to say that right. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. And there's also the second part, which He also had, of course, there really isn't too much in it. It's just the emergencies protocol, procedure for the security personnel, and procedure for diplomats. And that's it. So far, the idea that he would be reconnected, not yet. Check and see if there's anyone here. Hi, Eric. So that's it. This is your news from the VNet guy in his basement, and I hope you enjoyed it. I have another show going on soon, but if anyone has any new information, please go to the hashtag Unity4J Discord and go ahead and post it in the urgent or the recent in the news section. And if you want to get any of the mods' attention, or Susie, you can of course put her name or at the ampersand, and more people will see it who you want to see it. Okay, that's it, and I'll see you